Hello, Shazia.
Hi, Rina. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Shazia, you are a psychotherapist, so you help people with their emotional and mental well-being. You help them decipher what their feelings or their experiences have been to a better emotional and mental state. Do you think that people are seeking more and more people like you, psychotherapists, out in this day and age? And if so, why so?
Yeah, definitely. I think people are becoming more and more aware of their mental well-being, becoming more aware of mental health in general. Of course, we've got a long way to go. But also the world has changed. A lot has changed after COVID. Um, in general, people are finding themselves struggling to cope with daily lives. We've now got our phones and we've got social media that is also having a massive impact on our own self esteem, our ability to focus, our ability to work. So there's lots of things going on um, in our lives, and people are feeling like they need somewhere and someone to talk to about how to cope with all these things.
Do you think that people are more open to speaking to people like you, more open to finding help? Or do you think that there's still a stigma for many to overcome?
there, there are there is still a stigma for sure, especially with men. It for men especially, it feels very weak to go and talk to someone like a therapist. But having said that, I have lots of male clients, and awareness is increasing, so more and more people are seeking external professional help. But yeah, I mean, I would say yes to both. There is still stigma, but more and more people are reaching out, so the awareness is increasing.
Do you think that the fact that we are more open to speaking to professionals is indicative of the age we live in? And do you think that the age that many of us are now coming to, or there is an age-related period of time where therapists like you are more and more sought after and helpful to people?
Um, in terms of the ages of people, it is so varied, Rina. I have clients from the ages of 19 up to 77.
Oh, wow.
So the younger people are more open to therapy because it's now part of their narrative. Their friends are getting therapy. It's not that much of a taboo. It's the older generation, and when I say older, I mean my age and above, like 50 plus ish, who are now finding that it's okay, I'll try it. I get lots of people who say, okay, I'll try one or two sessions with you and then see how it goes. Or my daughter and son think I should get therapy, so I'm coming for one or two sessions. And then usually those one or two sessions last for several other sessions. So yeah, it's changing. It's a very exciting time to be in my world right now.
So you feel that the younger generation are helping the older generation to be more in tune with their emotional side. Do you ever have to teach people to speak or communicate in a way that so that they can get the best out of a session or they can articulate what's happening within them?
It's not about teaching anyone. That my job is to um, navigate, and I wouldn't even say navigate. My job is to sort of try and understand what people are saying, both verbally and non-verbally. So even if they're not saying something, that is saying something. So the whole idea is that I try and make the space as comfortable, as open, and as safe, really, for people who. And I always say you can say as much or as little as you want in this session. You don't. There's no hard and fast rule. These are your sessions. You're paying me. You use them in the best way that works for you. Some people come in and say, "Oh, I don't know what to do," and I'm like, "It's okay. We just chat. Just tell me a little bit about yourself," and then it leads to something or the other.
So tell me something. We're in a world where one could argue we know lots of people, we're far more connected. Do you think that people are more lonely? And why do we Why do people find more comfort perhaps speaking to a stranger, which is essentially what you may be, as
Yeah, I
opposed
know.
to their friends or their circle of, colleagues or family?
Well, first of all, colleagues and family, there's always the fear of judgment. Yeah, people always are like, oh, but what do they think of me? Things like that. Who am I to them? I can listen to anything that they say. They tell me their deepest, darkest secrets, their deepest, darkest fears, and I'm not going to judge them. I'm not connected to anyone they know, so there's no risk of anyone finding out. And because I have no invested interest in them, so I'm not emotionally connected to them in any way, the things I say are not biased in terms of, you know, I don't have any agenda. So it's probably the safest thing to go and talk to a stranger like me rather than a friend or a colleague or someone who will have, like, you know, a bias or a particular opinion. So much easier to talk to a stranger.
Do you feel that when you, the non-biased person, is having that conversation, people are given more of a context or they're given a broader horizon of what's going on, and that helps them to navigate where they're going or the relationships going further?
The thing, the truth is, Rina, that we all know and have we all know about ourselves. The biggest experts about ourselves are ourselves. My job really is to ask and sometimes and interpret sometimes, but more importantly, ask questions that get you thinking more about your own responses, your own emotional makeup, and things like that. So it's more about the questions that I ask that you yourself come to the realization than me tell you this is what it is. Because whatever it is, at the end of the day, the only person who's lived your life is you, and the only person who's experienced your experiences and feelings is you. I can only be the sort of person alongside to say, oh, but have you thought about this, and how would you feel about this? But I don't know. The only person who actually knows is you.
So when people come and see you, they get perspective or insight, or they're probed to
Yeah.
if I said to you, what do I get by seeing you? What do I get?
You get an understanding of yourself, most important. That's the number one thing. You get an understanding of why you feel how you feel, and why you probably behave how you behave, why you respond to certain things in the way you do. Um, so that's what you get. And then once we realize all these things, we also can work out, strategies and things to manage and to cope with difficult emotions or difficult situations. So it's a twofold. One is why, and then the other one is what. Because it's all very well to learn, okay, this happened because I do this because of this, but okay, what do I do with that? How do I use this information to make my life better?
Some people would say that generally, as a generation, we've never had it so good. Relatively, we are living in the best of times. Why do you think that there is more and more need for people like you, or that maybe we are not in the optimum or the best mental or emotional health at times?
um, we are not in the best. We are actually probably in the one of the worst mental and emotional, or either that, or we're just more aware of the fact that emotionally and mentally, we're not that strong. Um, Again, COVID has had a massive role to play in our emotional and mental well-being, but so has social media. All our feelings of inadequacy, etc., are totally enhanced when we're scrolling Instagram and we're scrolling TikTok and Facebook or whatever. We see everybody else doing fabulous things with their life, and we're like, oh, I'm less than, and all these things come up, you know. Um, so yeah, so that's probably why people are the most fragile they've ever been, actually. And the other thing is, we have access, or we are being bombarded by news of the world 24/7. Yeah. And the majority of time, if you switch on Sky News, BBC, whatever it is, it's all negative stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very occasionally, you'll hear some positive stuff. So can you imagine subconsciously what is happening in our brains where we are constantly fed how horrible the world is?
But there's no escape because the algorithm will find you, and these videos
100%.
are programmed for a certain duration to keep your attention. What do you tell?
That's right.
So if that's so, you said two things have really impacted us: COVID and social media. What is
And the
what,
24/7 information.
so? What do you tell people to not or to do to escape these cycles or these
Look,
spirals?
I can say stop scrolling. I can say don't look at the news, but that is not a reality. Yeah. We have to be mindful of the fact that if we're going to be on Instagram and if we're going to do all this, this is not reality. Yeah. Take it with a pinch of salt. Um, Definitely, try and reduce phone usage for sure. Spend more time reading, spend more time outdoors, walking, exercising, whatever. Try and reduce it. But we live in a world where we're on our phones 24/7, and we're going to have to learn strategies and ways to cope with that information overload.
Or relearn to actually connect with people one to one and find those meaningful relationships.
That's
What do
right.
you think COVID has done to us? It's such an extraordinary thing to have lived through.
It
Even
is. It
now,
is.
it's not that long ago, but we've
I,
bounced.
yeah, I think the impact of COVID, we still don't know fully. It's still, we still don't know. However, it has increased things like um, anxiety, social anxiety. People don't, especially of that COVID generation, those who were like 15, 16, even 13, 14, those 2 years, they stopped interacting with people. Many of them don't know how to interact with other people in real time. You'll notice young teenagers and stuff, and they won't pick up the phone to talk to someone. They'll text or they'll leave a voice note. I'm not going to call up someone. I'm going to send them email or I'll leave a voice note.
I was speaking to somebody and I was like, it's almost like I need to make an appointment to say, can I call you at this time?
That's
We've
right.
lost that. And when somebody calls you, it almost feels like an infringement of your personal
Yeah,
space. Like,
that's right.
why are
Why are
they
you
phoning
calling
me?
me?
This is like audacious. Send me a message. What is
Yeah.
that? Why have, from a generation even as ours, where you had the home phone and everyone used to call and
Mm,
nothing else, how have we so quickly perhaps morphed into a generation who are like, please,
yeah,
what are you
exactly.
doing?
COVID did that. And there are many effects of COVID. Like I said, we don't know fully.
I think some of the things that I now say, and I don't know if it sounds insane to some of my friends, I'll be like, why don't we Zoom and have a coffee? Because you've got childcare, I can't leave the house for whatever reason. We can do this. And I think the fact that FaceTime or Zoom or Teams or whatever visual ability we have to speak to each other, it's a good thing. It's
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's a good thing. It's made life much easier.
so it gives us
But
more opportunities to connect.
100%.
But
But the connections that we have and we made when we're physically sitting at Costa and talking are very different. The things we talk about whilst we are face to face with someone are very different. The energy is different.
yeah.
So look, technology is growing. We're going to soon be inundated with AI everything, and we're going to have to learn an even more newer way of life. So we've got to embrace all this, but we've got to be mindful of what it is doing to our brains.
I think the silver lining sometimes is if you can't get anywhere to maintain your relationship, a visual coffee or a video call is better than nothing, but nothing
Yeah,
replaces the leaning over a table and holding
that's
somebody's
right.
shoulder and saying it's going to be okay or we're
Exactly
all in
that.
this.
Yeah.
Where if you had somebody who was a bit reluctant to come and see you for whatever reason, what advice would you give them to say, come?
I always say, come and have one session. We don't have to have 10 sessions. There's no commitment. You have one session, you like it, great. We book the next one. You don't like it, you never have to see me again. There's no pressure. Um, and at the end of the day, no one can make anyone go for therapy or for anything like this. It has to come from yourself. And like I get calls to say, oh, my mom or my daughter. And I'm like, well, she needs to call me. I need to have a chat with the person, because this cannot be under duress. This has to be something that you want to do, because otherwise you're not going to trust me, you're not going to open up. There's no point. So it has to come from it has to be something that you want to do.
But I guess people encouraging other people that this avenue is open and it may be
Yes.
helpful. Find yourself somebody who might be able to offer you the professional help you need. It's a different conversation. I don't think many generations have had that conversation before. So it possibly takes time for somebody to be
Yeah,
receptive.
100%. And that's why I'm very clear. I don't have, oh, you have to do 10 sessions or 6 sessions or whatever it is. It is, you come, you see, you like it, we book the next one. You don't like it, you don't ever have to see me again.
Shazia, as a psychotherapist, what motto do you live by to make sure that you keep your emotional and mental health optimum?
God, that's a good question. I don't have a motto. I sort of do it day to day, but I mean, I have, when I say I talk a lot, it means that I have someone I mean, I have people who I discuss how I'm feeling and things like that. Um, Physical exercise, really important. Um, what else?
Do you
I
have
don't
a
have.
voice in your head that
I
says,
have a voice. I therapize myself sometimes. Sometimes I catch myself behaving in a certain way, or reacting to something in a certain way, and I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I actually doing this? What is the actual emotion I'm feeling? Okay, let's dial it back and see how could I have dealt with this situation differently. And then, I have a supervisor and I have colleagues and friends who I talk to, and I'm like, this happened, and we sort of bounce these things off.
so you get to formulate your professional life through your real life experience, and you're always constantly learning as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's no end to learning. There's absolutely no end to learning. Um, this is for me one of the most fascinating areas. Also, how our brain impacts our mental health, how the structures of the brain work, especially when people have had a lot of trauma, because that's the area I specialize in. So, when people who've undergone a lot of trauma, what changes in the brain happen that impact our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with others, and how we see the world?
And when you say trauma, what do you mean? Physical, emotional, mental?
Anything,
Oh,
any trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, mental trauma, bullying, car accident,
so
you
that
name it.
trauma is your trauma. It's different for everybody.
It's different from for everybody. You and I could be in the same, for example, car accident. Let's say you may walk out of there being like, yeah, I'm fine. No car accident. Okay. I may sit with that for years with PTSD. So we each one experience things differently based on our own genetic makeup, our own past experiences. No two people respond to the same stimulus in the same way.
So everybody has their own.
Stories and experiences. Yeah,
So
for sure.
there is no invalidation that that's not a big deal. Everybody should, if they feel they want to speak to somebody, feel validated to go and do that.
Yeah, 100%. I am no one to say, oh, but that wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal for you, so it's a big deal for you.
You spoke about physical exercise. Is there a correlation between mental health, physical health, or
100%. 100%. We underestimate how much physical and mental health are connected. And they are very highly connected. When we do physical exercise and stuff, we have endorphins released into our systems, which are our feel good hormones. You will notice that people who've been had the suffered the most trauma, for example, will have health issues like not will have, but are likely to have health issues like fibromyalgia, autoimmune diseases, IBS, chronic pain, chronic inflammation. All these invariably clients who come to me with these issues, I peel off some layers. I know they've been through hell in their early years. So the mind and body are very closely connected. So doing physical exercise, going, getting outside, um, keeping fit,
Eating
walking. All
better.
these things are really important to help with your mental health
Do you
as well.
learn from the people who are sitting across the room? Do you still
Every
learn?
single, every single session,
Do you,
every single session is a learning experience for me.
what has somebody taught you that you keep with you and take with you and think that's
Um,
an example that I'd like to follow or lesson that I should learn from?
I can't think of one, but there's so many people there who sit across who've been through absolute hell in life and are still sitting there, doing the best they can. And these people inspire me. And so many people who feel broken. When I listen to some of their stories, I'm like, you know what? You're an absolute inspiration. I know you feel broken, but you should look at yourself and be like, wow, what am I doing here after everything I've been through? So I can't say one thing, but every client, every person who sits in front of me, I learn something new.
Thank you very much, Shazia.
Thank you for having me, Rina.
No problem at all. Thank you.